Hi, K-pop lovers. Welcome back to the channel. For over a decade, K-pop has run on one unspoken rule: precision wins. Idols train for years to hit every point, every formation, every angle in perfect unison because in this industry, a single messy arm movement can become a headline. Choreography isn't just performance, it's the product. Fans dissect fancams frame by frame looking for the one member who's a half second off. Labels build entire comebacks around a single viral dance challenge. For years, that was the game, and everyone played it the same way. Then BABYMONSTR walked into Jamsil Indoor Stadium for their Chum World Tour opener, and by the time the encore hit, they weren't playing that game anymore. They were live, loud, and completely unwilling to stay inside the lines. And what happened over those 3 nights in Seoul might be the clearest sign, yet that the entire K-pop formula is shifting under everyone's feet. Let's set the scene. June 26th to 28th, 2026, Jamsil Indoor Stadium, Seoul. This was the opening leg of BABYMONSTER's second world tour, named after their title track Chum, which literally translates to dance. There's something almost ironic about that. A tour named after dance became famous not for its choreography, but for everything happening around it and despite it. Because from the very first songs, it was obvious this wasn't going to be a note-for-note replica of the music video. This was a group treating a 3-minute stage like it was too small for them and stretching every corner of a full concert to prove it. Here's the first crack in the formula. Early in the set, right after the opening 2 songs, the members went backstage to change for the next segment. In a typical K-pop concert, this is where you'd expect a slick pre-recorded video package to fill the gap, something polished and pre-produced to keep the energy up while the stage resets. BABYMONSTER didn't do that. Instead, the live band just kept playing. No video, no pause, no scripti file. Just a full band stretching the music live to bridge the gap, in real time, with zero safety net. It sounds like a small thing, but in an industry obsessed with control, it's a massive statement. It says, we don't need to hide the seams. We're not afraid of dead air because we're not performing a product, we're playing a show. And that band didn't just sit in the background for one transition. It stayed central for the entire night, giving the songs a fuller, looser shape than anything you'd hear on the studio tracks. Backing tracks were still running because that's simply how arena-scale K-pop shows work. But here's the part that matters. The choruses, the high notes, the moments that actually test a singer, those were live. Every time. That's the detail that separates a vocal group putting on a show from an idol group executing a routine. When the biggest, hardest parts of a song are the parts you choose to sing live, you're not hiding behind the mix. You're inviting scrutiny, and BABYMONSTR didn't flinch from it once across 3 sold-out nights. Now here's where it gets personal because this wasn't just a performance strategy, it was something the members were visibly craving. Ahyeon said something backstage that cuts right to the heart of why this tour felt different. She talked about how during rehearsals, something felt missing and she couldn't figure out what it was. Some of it was about needing more practice, more polish, more reps, but eventually she realized what it actually was. It wasn't the choreography that was missing, it was the crowd. The energy that a room full of screaming fans gives back to a performer, the thing no rehearsal room can replicate. That's not a throwaway quote. That's a group admitting on the record that the audience isn't a passive viewer of their perfection. The audience is a co-creator of the performance itself. And once you understand that mindset, everything else about this tour starts to make sense. Because think about what that means for choreography. If the crowd is a co-creator, then rigid, locked-in formations become a limitation, not a strength. And that's exactly what we saw play out by the time the night reached its climax. The encore is where BABYMONSTER fully tore up the rulebook. During remixed versions of Sheesh and Batter Up, the 6 members let go of their tight choreography entirely.
No formations, no contes, no itching marques.
Instead, they roamed the stage, jumped into the crowd's energy, and moved with the audience instead of performing at them. If you've watched enough K-pop content, you know how rare this actually is. Idols are trained within an inch of their lives to control the stage visually at all times. Letting go of that, especially on a global tour opener being filmed and clipped from every possible angle, is a risk. It's messy by design. But it's also the moment fans in that arena will remember longest, not because it was the most impressive dance segment of the night, but because it was the most human one. And that's really the through line connecting everything from Jamsil. Strong live vocals, ad-libs thrown in on the fly, a full band carrying the arrangement, a member admitting the crowd completes the performance, and an encore where choreography was treated as optional rather than sacred. None of that reads like a group protecting a polished image. It reads like a group betting everything on a completely different value system, one where connection outranks precision. But to really understand why this tour hit different, you have to look past the encore and into something YG Entertainment revealed about how these shows actually got built. The solo stages scattered throughout the Chum setlist weren't handed down from a producer's playbook. According to YG's own recap of the Seoul shows, each member personally participated in choosing her own song, shaping the arrangement, and directing her own stage. Think about how radical that actually is inside this industry. K-pop has spent 2 decades running on a top-down model, where a producer or a creative director decides exactly what an idol performs, how they move, and how they're framed, down to the smallest detail. That's the system that built perfect, interchangeable choreography in the first place, because when one person is designing every performance, uniformity is the natural result. BABYMONSTER's solo stages flipped that structure. Instead of executing someone else's vision, each member built a stage that showcased her own strengths, her own taste, her own artistic instincts. That's not a small creative concession, that's a label handing over authorship, and once you give members that kind of control, expecting them to stay locked into rigid, interchangeable choreography stops making sense. Individual creative ownership and cookie-cutter uniformity simply can't coexist, and BABYMONSTER chose ownership. That same logic showed up in how the members treated the physical stage itself. Throughout the concert, they used an extended stage and moving carts to close the distance with fans scattered across the arena, and a newly built encore stage pushed the night to its peak. None of that is choreography in the traditional sense. It's spatial storytelling, built around getting physically closer to the people watching rather than executing a routine at a fixed center point. When you combine that with the earlier moments, the live band filling gaps instead of pre-recorded video, the high notes sung raw instead of leaning on the track, Ahyeon's comment about the crowd being the missing piece, and the encore where choreography got abandoned entirely, a clear pattern emerges. Every single one of these choices moves power away from rigid production control and toward the members and the audience. That's not a random creative decision on one tour stop. That's a coordinated shift in what BABYMONSTR, and by extension YG, believes a concert is actually for. So, here's the bigger question this tour is actually asking the entire industry. For years, the K-pop playbook has treated choreography as the primary language idols use to prove their worth. Perfect synchronization has been the shorthand for discipline, for hard work, for being real artists. But BABYMONSTER's opening run suggests that language might be getting old. When the moments fans are clipping, screenshotting, and rewatching aren't the 8-count formations, but the live high notes, the unscripted backstage honesty, and the encore where the members just danced with the crowd instead of at them, that tells you where audience attention is actually moving. It's moving toward authenticity that can't be rehearsed. And that's a much harder thing to manufacture than a clean formation. This matters beyond just one group's tour. If BABYMONSTER's approach keeps paying off in ticket sales, in streaming numbers, in the sheer volume of fan-made content coming out of these shows, other companies are going to notice. And in an industry that copies what works fast, that could mean the next generation of tours starts looking less like flawless dance routines and more like actual concerts, messy, live, and built around the crowd instead of just performed in front of them. So really, the question isn't whether BABYMONSTER broke the mold on this tour. They clearly did. The real question is whether the rest of the industry is ready to follow them off the script. What do you think, Monsties? Was letting go of the choreography during that encore a bold move that redefines what a K-pop concert can be? Or does it risk losing the precision that made this genre so respected in the first place? Drop your take in the comments. I want to know where you stand. And if you want more deep dives into how BABYMONSTER keeps rewriting the rules of this industry, make sure you're subscribed because we are just getting started. Ahyeon.